You're watching another True Villain commentary.
Alright everybody, it's True Villain. Welcome back. And Arc Raiders just made a pretty big live service move that I think a lot of people are gonna have mixed feelings about, because on May 12th, store update 1.28.0 went live, added the Castaway Set to the store rotation, and pushed out the third and final Patchwork outfit update for players who departed in their caravans during the third expedition. Embark also noted it was tracking an issue where some expedition players were missing skill points after departing, and said it would be granting those back in the following days. Then one day later, on May 13, Embark dropped the bigger news. Major Arc Raiders updates are no longer coming monthly, they're moving to twice a year. Now on the surface, that sounds scary, because anytime a live service game says, hey, we're slowing the major update cadence down, the immediate reaction from players is usually, oh great, so support is slowing down. Oh great, the game is cooling off. Oh great, here comes less content. But that is not actually what Embark said. What they said is major updates are shifting to 2 big drops per year, while a dedicated live service team will still keep the game running day to day with regular live updates, balance fixes, bug fixes, store updates, and player events. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, depending on how they execute this could actually be the smarter long-term move. Because one thing Embark admitted in that development update is that the original monthly update plan was not really producing the kind of impact they wanted. They said once the game was in players' hands, it became clear that the long-term experience they wanted for Arc Raiders needed more transformative updates, and that the pressure of a monthly cycle was limiting how impactful those updates could be. That's actually a very important admission, because it tells you this wasn't just some random schedule change. It came from them realizing the monthly pace was too restrictive for the scale of changes they want to make. And real talk, I think that makes sense, because there are 2 ways a live service game can update. One way is constant little drops, where the game always has motion but not always real impact. The other way is fewer, bigger updates that actually move systems, progression, maps, enemies, and the long-term feel of the game. Embark is basically saying it wants Arc Raiders to be the second kind of game now. And if you look at what they tease for the next major update, you can see why. They said the next big update, called Frozen Trail, lands in October and will be the largest update since launch, with a new map, new Arc enemies, new progression systems, improvements to the skill tree, and more story, world expansion around the origin of Arc. That is not small stuff. That sounds like the kind of update you probably do need more time to build properly. So if you ask me what this change actually means, I think it means Embark is trying to stop treating Arc Raiders like a treadmill and start treating it like a world that gets bigger in more meaningful jumps. And honestly, that's not a bad idea. Now, does that mean everyone is going to like it? No, because there is a real downside here too. If you're somebody who likes the rhythm of new month, new patch, new reason to log in, then hearing that the major updates are now spread out to basically every 6 months is going to sound rough. Even if live updates and events continue, there is still a psychological difference between something is always changing and the truly big stuff is farther apart. That's a real concern, and I think Embark knows it too, because in the post, they literally admit the change won't please everyone. But where I think they're trying to soften that is with the other systems they mentioned. They're not just saying wait until October and good luck. They also said starting next week they're introducing a new trader for late game players unlocked at level 25 who gives unique rewards, rare items, cosmetics, extra stash space, and something called the Expedition Vault, which lets you carry up to 5 items across the expedition. That is clearly aimed at some of the exact issues players have been having with high value item overflow, stash pressure, and the expedition not feeling rewarding enough. So even though the major cadence is slowing down, they are still trying to make the game feel like it's actively evolving in the meantime. And that's where this whole thing gets interesting, because I think the success or failure of this decision comes down to one thing. Do the non-major updates actually feel meaningful enough to keep the game alive between the big drops? That's the whole question. If Embark really does keep the game active with good balance passes, good events, smart bug fixing, meaningful live tweaks, and smaller systems like this trader update, then I think people will be a lot more willing to wait for the larger seasonal jumps. But if the game starts feeling quiet, repetitive, or underfed between those major updates, then this decision is going to get blamed fast. That's the gamble. Now, I would say this in Embark's favor. The reasoning they gave was actually pretty grounded. They didn't try to spin it like this is automatically better just because they said so. They straight up said the monthly cycle wasn't sustainable and wasn't compatible with the bigger ambitions they have for the game. They also said the extra development space will let them invest more deeply into progression, economy balancing, and fair play, anti-cheat, which are exactly the kinds of systems that matter a lot in a game like Arc Raiders, where every encounter and every extraction is supposed to carry weight. And honestly, I'd rather hear that kind of honesty than the usual live service corporate language where everything is somehow super exciting and player focused while the actual updates get thinner and thinner. At least here, Embark is being clear. Monthly wasn't working the way they wanted. They want bigger swings, and they think the game needs more development space to actually become what they want it to be. That's a fair argument. So overall, here's where I land on it. Store update 1.28.0 itself was small but real. Castaway Set final Patchwork outfit update and some expedition related cleanup. That part checks out. The much bigger story is the May 13th schedule change, where Embark officially moved Arc Raiders to a 2 major updates per year model, while promising that live support, events, balance, work, bug fixes, and store updates will continue in between. And whether that ends up being a great move or a dangerous one is going to depend entirely on how strong that support actually is once the big update hype fades and players are stuck living in the space between patches. If you think Embark made the right call, slowing down the major updates so they can make them bigger, let me know in the comments. And if you're new around here, subscribe. See you guys in the next video.